Hi, good day all of you. Welcome to our session. Welcome to our channel, Intelligible Tutorials. In this today's session, now I would like to give the clear information regarding the terminologies related to the regression analysis. So, what are the various terminologies that we are going to use that we are going to see now? Number one, this is dependent variable. Number two, it is independent variable. Three, outliers. Four, multicollinearity. Five, underfitting. Six, overfitting. So these are various kinds of the terminologies normally we can come across while we working with the regression analysis and as well as the sometimes classification. In the classification also the same kind of the terminology that we will use. So we can say overall in supervised learning we are going to use this kind of regression analysis. Sorry, this kind of terminology in the regression analysis and as well as in classification and as well as in regression also in both cases, right? So now we are going to see what is dependent variable. So the main factor of the regression analysis which we want to predict or understand is dependent variable. It is also called as the target variable. Normally if we see the data set, this target variable is last at the end of the data set. The rightmost part is the target variable or the dependent variable. And what are independent variables? The factors that affect the dependent variables, which is used to predict the values of the dependent variables, are called as independent variable or as well as the predictors. So target is different, predictor is different. The target is always lies at the end of the data set, whereas the predictors are the set of the independent variables are called as the predictor variables. Okay, the next one is outlier. What is the outlier? Outlier means normally this term can be used in the clustering. That means within a cluster, all the elements in the cluster should be same. Whenever any non-similar item is existing within the cluster, that is called as the outlier. That can be treated as the outlier. So outlier is an observation normally which contains either very low value or very high value in the comparison to the observed values in case of the supervised learning. I am talking about unsupervised learning in the clustering. The value which is non-similar is called as the outlier. Here, in the case of the supervised learning, it may be of the regression or it may be of the classification. Outlier normally is an observation which contains either very low value or very high value. It's a low or high value in comparison to other observed values, and an outlier may hamper the results, so it should be avoided. And the more number of outliers results poor accuracy and poor results it shows. So that's why we can avoid the we should easily avoid the outliers in the unsupervised learning. But whereas in the supervised learning we need to avoid it. These are the various kinds of different kinds of issues may arise, like accuracy reduction and true positive false positive values varies whenever we have these outlier values, so we should avoid them. And next one is multicollinearity. What is multicollinearity? If the independent variables are highly correlated with each other than other variables, such condition is called as in multicollinearity. It should not be present in the dataset because it creates a problem while ranking the most affecting variables. Let me explain by taking one single example here. That is, for example, if I take one data set, that is, let us see, suppose we are having a data set, topmost column. This is, I'm going to predict one kind of what we can call disease normally. That disease is called as COVID. Okay, so here the various symptoms that affect the COVID are cold, fever, smell, no smell. So I'm writing here as no smell and cough. These are all the symptoms that affect the COVID variable. So here the main factor in regression analysis which we want to predict or understand is called as the dependent variable. Here what is the dependent variable? Your COVID is the dependent variable. Okay, so it is also a target variable, and all the factors that affect the COVID, whether the person is suffering from COVID or not, these are various factors. All the four variables are called as independent variables. For example, if you take all these are the independent variables and these are the dependent variables. This one is the dependent variable. Okay, so like this we can categorize the various kinds of examples of independent and as well as dependent variables. Okay, so what is the outlier that we have already seen? Outlier which contain either very low or high value in compared with observed values. So outlier may hamper the results. What is multicollinearity? Collinearity. If the independent variables are highly correlated with other variables, such condition is called as multicollinearity, and it should not be present in the data set because it creates the problem while ranking the most effective variable. What is the multicollinearity in this example? Let us see, for example, the cold is highly dependent on fever, and fever is highly dependent on no smell, and again it is highly dependent on cough. So, all these variables are internally highly related with each other. All these independent variables are highly dependent on each other. Such situation is called as collinearity. So with high collinearity, we can get the poor results, poor predictions. So that's why it should be avoided. That's what he said. It should not be present in the data set. It should create the problem while ranking the most effective affecting variable. Okay. So the next one is underfitting and as well as the overfitting. So what is this underfitting and overfitting? If our algorithm works well with the training data set but not well with the test data set, then such problem is called as overfitting. And if our algorithm does not perform well with the training data set, then such problem is called as underfitting. In easy terminology or in easy words, overfitting means the algorithm works well. That means more training data, if you feed it, the more training data you have, then such situation is called as what? That is overfitting. And less training data, then such situation is called as underfitting. Okay, so whenever the data is more in the training data and but not well for the testing data, the poor testing data is there, then such problem is called as overfitting. And when there is a less number of testing data set percentage, whereas training data is more, that is called as overfitting, and less number of training data is there but more number of the training data testing data is there, such problem is called as underfitting. The uh, the data set should not be overfit or should not be underfit, it should be balanced. Okay, for that again we are having some methods are there to overcome these problems of overfitting and as well as underfitting. Normally these are the terminologies that we may come across while working with this particular machine learning algorithms. So one is what? Dependent variable, independent variable, outliers, multicollinearity, underfitting and overfitting. These are the very good terms normally we are going to use with the machine learning. Okay, so if you want to do any comments, please do comment in the comment section. If at all anybody didn't subscribe my channel, please subscribe my channel, Intelligible Tutorials. Thank you one and all.